Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the first time home buyers seminar. We are excited to be here with our wonderful partners. My name is Tony Chimino. I'm the Director of Corporate Events at Schneps Media, and I will be introducing and hosting this evening, and then handing it off to our wonderful panelists who are experts in the field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remind everyone to put themselves on mute, please. We will be sharing everyone's contact information in the chat so that you can absolutely contact with questions and follow-up information. Just a little bit about us. Schneps Media is the largest media company in the area, in the New York City area, serving Manhattan to Montauk with more than 100 publications. That is literally on your block. We are being recorded this evening. There will be contact information, and the webinar will also be emailed and disseminated. So today, welcome again. We're going to be exploring what it takes to buy your very first home. And before you go too far in the home buying process, what you need to know to proceed. So I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful panel of experts who will help to answer these important questions and any other questions you might have about buying your first home. So first up, Walter Skowronski. Hi, Walter.
Hey, how you doing? Hello, everyone.
Thank you for being here. He's a mortgage sales manager at MCU Municipal Credit Union with 20 years of mortgage experience. He has been with MCU for the past 3 years, helping MCU members realize their dream of home ownership. And isn't that everyone's dream? Fun fact about Walter, he loves social events and singing karaoke. I love that. I love that. Next up is Michael Gerty, Business Development Officer with Municipal Credit Union, MCU. He's a seasoned financial professional with a successful career dedicated to guiding and supporting individuals in achieving their financial goals. Very important, obviously, for now and in the future, and achieving home ownership. With over 3 decades of experience in the finance industry, Michael has worked with various firms, honing his experience in wealth management and financial planning. Fun fact, he still surfs regularly, year-round. That's great. I love that. Loves to fish, play golf, and enjoy any outdoor dining with a view. We also have Adam Gonda here this evening. Thank you. With over a decade of experience in financial services, Adam's knowledge ranges from retail banking, operations, and all things lending, with a forte in lending and stemming from consumer to commercial and now residential, which is what we're here for. As a mortgage sales manager with MCU, Adam educates members as well as staff and provides hands-on guidance and to best assist members with their financial and lending needs. Fun fact, he owns a vehicle that is only one of 440 in the US. What kind of vehicle is that? That's very interesting.
It's one of the last Stingers, the Kia Stingers that they made.
Very cool, very cool. And we have, thank you, Omar Osoria. His favorite subject in school was math. Oh, my daughter's too. Which led him to receive a degree in business administration with a concentration in finance, and then to a career in the finance industry. He has worked directly with MCU members since 2014. Now, as a lending sales manager, fluent in both English and Spanish, Omar is very passionate about helping members to achieve their goals of home ownership and works to guide his members through the process from inception to closing, offering tailored products that fit each member's goals. Fun fact, he loves sporting events and visits sporting events in every town and country he visits. So without further ado, we again thank you for being here this evening. I am going to hand it over to Adam, and we thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz. My name is Adam Gonda, one of the managers here in mortgage sales. We have this disclaimer here for you. MCU has provided this presentation for informational and illustrative purposes only. It assumes no liability to any person for its content or any person's reliance on that content. This presentation does not constitute legal or tax advice. Each borrower should consult with qualified legal, tax, real estate, and lending professionals with respect to his or her particular situation. Tonight, we're hosting a first-time homebuyers workshop. So again, I'd like to welcome everybody here to our first-time homebuyers workshop. In this course, we're going to explore what it takes to buy your first home. Before you get too far in the home buying process, you should make sure you're ready to own a home, right? So things like, how do you know if you're ready to be a homeowner, and what should you be thinking about? Our goal today is to arm you with enough information to answer these questions and help determine if owning a home is right for you. Brief agenda here. So first things we're going to cover, am I ready? Should you buy or not? Can you get a mortgage? The down payment and the closing cost or any cost involved. What do you need to know? Who's part of the process? Terms to know. What's in a mortgage payment? Right, and then the last thing is going to be getting started. How to obtain your credit report, pre-approvals, pre-qualifications, and finding a realtor. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to my buddy here, Walter Skowronski.
Thanks, Adam. Welcome all. And just to give everyone a heads up, we will be emailing out a copy of the deck. So don't think that you have to take notes or anything like that. You'll be getting a copy of this. So without further ado, some terms that you should know. Amortization. What amortization is, it's the repayment of the loan principal over time with scheduled payments that consist of both principal and interest. The loan balance declines by the amount of principal in the scheduled payments. So typically on an amortization chart, you'll see that your mortgage payments over the course of 30 years, say, in the beginning is loaded with a lot of interest, and at the end of it, you're paying mostly principal. So that's why a lot of people oftentimes will prepay their mortgage to have that principal get lowered, so that way the term actually gets shortened. We'll get into a little bit more of that later. Annual percentage rate, or also known as the APR. So the APR, what it does is it shows the cost of your mortgage loan as a yearly rate. The APR includes upfront fees such as points, as well as interest, and is intended to show you the true cost of a loan. When you're comparing one loan to another, like if you were to go to MCU and they gave you an APR of say 6.5%, and you went to another lender and they also gave you an APR of 6.5%, that means that the cost of that loan is equal. When other lenders have higher APRs, that means that it's more expensive. So there might be some fees involved in getting that better interest rate. Closing costs. So typically we like to use an average of anywhere between 3 to 6% of the total loan amount. If you're in a state like, say, Pennsylvania or New Jersey, it's going to be closer to 3%. Here in New York, sadly, it's going to be closer towards 6%. Credit bureaus. So these are agencies that collect statistics on individual payment records, on loans, credit cards, as well as other debts. Debt to income ratio, also known as DTI. What this is, it's the ratio of your total debt payments, such as your mortgage, auto loans, student loans, credit cards, medical bills, things like that. And what we do is we take that, divide it by your gross income, so that's the before tax number, and we express it as a percentage. And that's what DTI is. Home equity. So this is the actual property's current market value, less any liens that are attached to the property. So what that means is, let's say you, for example, you have a property worth $500,000. There's a $400,000 mortgage. The equity in the home is the difference, is the 100,000. So, the longer you make your mortgage payments, the more equity you will have on your house, right? Because you're paying down the loan. Increasing your principal payments, this is kind of like what I touched on earlier, on your mortgage can also help speed the process up. So, for example, if you were to make one payment, I believe it's per year towards your principal balance, it obviously would shorten the term. by X amount of years. And if you go online, there's a ton of different amortization charts that you could actually look all this stuff up on. Escrow. So this is an account that's set up on your behalf in which a portion of your monthly payment is held to pay the property taxes as well as the insurance. Gross income. So gross income is the money that you earned before taxes or any type of payroll deduction. So this is, this is the number that you wish you took home every week, right? So that's what gross income is. Points. So what a point is, it's a percentage of the loan amount. In order to get a lower interest rate, you may or you should have the options to pay points up front. An example of that would be if the mortgage amount was say $100,000, 1 point would equal $1,000. And it would, here at MCU, if you were to pay that 1 point, it would reduce your interest rate by 0.125% or an eighth. Pre-qualification. So pre-qualifications and pre-approvals, oftentimes people tend to combine the two or use them both in the same manner. They're two very different pre-approvals or pre-qualifications. So a pre-qualification is really a conversation about a mortgage. So it's not an actual approval. And basically, if we're talking about your income, assets, and credit, we can give you a ballpark estimate of how much money you're able to borrow. Whereas on a pre-approval, what this is, we verify your income, assets, and credit. So we'll look at your credit, we'll look at your pay stubs, we'll look at your bank statements, things like that. So a pre-approval is a commitment from a lender to make a loan to a specific borrower prior to the identification of the specific property. And just keep in mind, even if you are pre-approved, there is still no guarantee that you will get the loan. To buy or not to buy, right? So that's the big question. So before you get too far into the home buying process, there's definitely some things that you should be sure, that you should know to make sure that you are ready to own a home. Here are some factors to consider. Advantages to buying a home. You build equity and a better future home. You have that sense of community. I felt that just today, right? So I live in a co-op and we have, it's like garden co-op. So there's different buildings. Walking down the street to go do my laundry, there's a group of ladies who, when the weather gets nice, they just sit out on the front porch and they have some wine. I mean, that's a sense of community for me. Like I get to walk by, say hello. Eventually, one day I'm going to join them, right? It's inevitable. So that's what we mean by sense of community. Also, you could be engaged in your community functions. You can go to PTA meetings, schools, things like that. Go to your public library. That's what we're talking about. Personalization. So you could do things to update your landscaping. You could paint your house, things like that. I often talk about my Uncle Enzo, God rest his soul, right? He lived in Virginia, had a beautiful house, but for some reason he thought that putting a purple door on the front was the greatest thing ever. So here he was with this beautiful house, and you know what? Because he owned the house, because he bought the house, he could do whatever he wants with it. And God bless him. He loved that purple door. And also, another advantage to buying is it may offer certain tax advantages. So an advantage to renting. There's no surprise expenses. Amenities are typically included. Oftentimes it's easier to move because you have a lot less stuff. And there's less maintenance. Something breaks, you don't have to fix it. You call the landlord, they come in there and they take care of everything. Some of the topics of buying, maintenance and other expenses. So when you own a property, oftentimes those upkeeps are all on you. You're going to have to pay for that stuff. There are upfront costs to buying a home. Market variability. Market variability over the past several years has been that the value of your home has been increasing. But you know what? That isn't always the case. You do run the risk of your property actually declining in value. That can happen. And it's less flexible to move. You generally will have more stuff accumulated when you own a home instead of renting. Some of the topics regarding renting is there is definitely no tax benefit. You have no equity in the property that you're living in. You have no control over rent increases, and you may just have some noisy neighbors. So can I qualify? Documents that you're going to want to start gathering. You're definitely going to want to talk to a loan officer about being pre-qualified. So remember, pre-qualified and pre-approval were two different things. So pre-qualified, you're going to want to talk to someone about home ownership. So just keep in mind, though, pre-qualification isn't an approval for a mortgage. It's a less formal way to estimate the range of home prices for you. You're not going to have to fill out an application, and the lender uses the information provided by you to make this assessment. So it's a conversation. These are some of the documents that are definitely helpful for a pre-qualification and certainly may be required for a pre-approval. You're going to want to have on hand 2 to 3 years of your federal tax returns. So those are your 1040s, 2 years of W-2 statements. You're going to want an employment history. So usually we're looking for a 2-year employment history, but that's not set in stone. Oftentimes, like let's say you have someone who's in nursing school, graduates, and then now is a nurse for a year. Oftentimes we could use that 1 year that they were still in school as part of that 2 years of work history or employment history. Paycheck stubs that include your year-to-date income. Savings and checking account statements. So that would be the money that you're going to be using for the down payment and closing costs. And any government issued identification should be fine. Just keep in mind that, under some circumstances, we would require more documentation, such as a divorce decree, child support, as well as a bankruptcy discharges. So there's 4 factors that count the most in qualifying for a loan. Credit history, that's number one. There's a reason why it's number one, right? So credit history is incredibly important. Your credit score gives lenders an indication of your willingness to pay, as indicated by your history of payments. In addition to determining your eligibility, your credit score will also affect the interest rate, the terms, as well as the conditions of your mortgage loan. So typically, the better your credit, the better the terms are for the mortgage that you're applying for. Debts. So a lender is going to obtain a credit report and review all of your debts. Generally speaking, it's going to include payments on all loans, charge cards, things like that, that you make on a monthly basis. A good goal is to spend about 36 to 38% of your gross income on all debt. So, for example, you make actually, we're going to get into a chart a little bit later, but it's your gross income, you times that by 38%. That's typically the max you want to, be spending on a monthly basis for everything. Employment history. So your job history is an important consideration for your ability to qualify for a mortgage. The more job stability that you've sustained, the better chance lenders will have to help you get the keys to a place to call your own. A steady, secure job will make sure that your loan application is just that much stronger. And last on the list here is the down payment. So don't count yourself out just because you don't have a lot of money saved in the bank. With the protection of mortgage insurance, or PMI, it's often called, lenders can offer mortgages to qualified borrowers, even with a low down payment. So when you're borrowing money for a home, lenders usually require you to contribute some of your own money towards that purchase. Typically, the larger the down payment, 20% is the standard. That means you're going to have a lower interest rate because lenders have less risk when you have more ownership in the property. You're taking on a bigger position in the property, so the lender is going to feel more comfortable lending you the money. However, you do not need to put down 20% to purchase a home. Mortgage insurance, MI, it's also known as PMI, helps qualified borrowers realize the dream of home ownership that much sooner. by compensating the lender for losses should a borrower be unable to make payments. Mortgage insurance allows a borrower to get into a home without having to come up with that 20% down payment. The cost of PMI, depends on your credit score as well as the size of your down payment. So the better your credit score, once again, the better the terms to your loan. Who's who? You're going to be working with many professionals on the road to homeownership, and each person provides a specific service to help you become a homeowner. Loan officer, that's what I do. I mean, I'm a manager, but I'm also a loan officer, and I'm certainly a loan officer by heart, right? What we do is we represent one lending institution as well as their loan programs. We're going to help you choose the best mortgage based upon your situation, and we will help you complete the pre-approval, the pre-qualification, as well as the loan application process. An appraiser. So these are individuals that are licensed in the area where you're purchasing a home to estimate the worth or fair market value of the property that you are purchasing. Closing or settlement agent. These are the parties who conduct the actual closing. When you close on the loan, you get the keys. This role may be filled by an attorney, a title company, or a real estate agent, depending on what state the property is located in. Here in New York, you're going to be dealing with an attorney, but if you're in Pennsylvania, oftentimes the realtors conduct the closing part of it. So you would not need an attorney, usually in Pennsylvania. A loan servicer. So this is the entity that collects your mortgage payments. These are the people you make your mortgage payments to. It may or may not be the lender. They'll also pay taxes and insurance and mortgage insurance if required on your behalf. So mortgage insurance, PMI. Mortgage insurance allows a borrower to get into a home without having to come up with a 20% down payment, and it compensates the lender for losses should a borrower be unable to make payments. So mortgage insurance, it's insurance. That's what it is, right? So a property inspector. So a property inspector is different than an appraiser. So what a property inspector does, they're an individual that conducts an examination of your home. The inspector will look for issues that may affect the value of the property and can assess the condition of your property. So usually when you find that home that you want to purchase, one of the first things you do is hire a property inspector to go in there and do like your due diligence, check the boiler, check the roof, things like that. Make sure that you're getting a sound home. Last person on the list here is certainly not the least. It's a real estate agent. They definitely play an important part of this. They're the person who acts as an intermediary between sellers and buyers of the property being purchased. The agent can provide helpful as well as specific community information. So what's in your mortgage payment? There's 4 pieces to it. We call it PITI. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So principal, this is the portion of your monthly payment that reduces the balance of your loan. Interest, this is the portion of your monthly payment that is applied towards your interest. So you have principal and interest. Pretty self-explanatory as far as that goes, right? So taxes. If you're escrowing taxes, meaning if you have someone who's collecting the taxes for you, if escrowed, it usually represents 1/12 of the annual property tax bill. So 1/12 means once a month. Insurance. Property insurance is required on every home. A monthly insurance amount is usually included with each mortgage payment and held in escrow until the bill is due to be paid. Last on the list there is mortgage insurance, or PMI, may be required when putting less than 20% down. And all of this makes up your monthly mortgage payment. Understanding credit. So your credit score has a major impact on a mortgage, from either your ability to qualify to the eventual interest rate that you get on your loan. So it's really important to keep an eye on your credit report, credit scores, things like that. So the lender is going to order your credit report to assess your ability and willingness to pay a mortgage. So we're going to look at your history to help determine your future. It's a good idea to order a copy of your own credit report before you apply. Your credit record can be obtained from a credit reporting agency, which is the agency that collects statistics on individual payment records on loans, credit cards, as well as other debts. There may be mistakes on your credit report. That's why it's a good idea to order your own report now, review it, and make sure that it contains accurate information. Federal law requires that each of the 3 nationwide consumer credit reporting companies, that was a lot for me to say there, geez, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, they're required to give you a free credit report every 12 months, and this is in bold for a reason, if you ask for it. They're not going to just give you this stuff, right? You have to ask for it. The easiest and most reputable website that we have found to get this information is annualcreditreport.com. So once you get your credit reports, you're going to want to review your credit reports. You're going to want to check for any inaccurate information. Some creditors may not report to all 3 credit agencies. So your information and score may and certainly will vary between the 3 credit agencies. Here's what you could typically expect to see on a credit report. You'll have personal information. It's not uncommon to have variations or misspellings of your name. Most credit reporting agencies leave these variations to maintain the link between your identity and the credit information. Like myself, as an example, I don't have a middle initial or a middle name. Sometimes when I've applied for credit in the past, maybe the data entry person or whatever the case may be threw in a middle initial for me. So because I have good credit, even bad credit, even if I had bad credit, they would still associate that name, Walter, with a middle initial, Skowronski, to that credit to make sure that, that personal information is connected. So that's why they do that. Account history. So this section includes each of your credit accounts and details about your payment history. It's important to make sure that the data is correct. If it has something on there that you were late on a payment and you weren't, that's certainly something you would want to dispute. Public records. This includes information like bankruptcies, judgments, tax liens, as well as court records. And some of this information may stay on your credit report for up to 7 to 10 years. Last on the list here is credit inquiry. So you'll see a list of parties on your credit report who have accessed your credit within the past 2 years. That's really all that is. So what can you afford? In addition to your lender, there are many online calculators available to help you determine just how much house you can afford. An easy guideline, and you've heard me say this earlier, is to follow that 38% rule. So your total monthly debt should never add up to more than 38% of your gross income. This is called DTI, or debt to income. To do a quick estimate of what you can afford, there's 2 basic numbers you need. You're going to need your gross income. That's your income before taxes and deductions, and your monthly debits. This is going to include payments on your credit cards, auto payments, as well as other installment loans. You would not, for this calculation, you would not include your current rent or housing expense. So it's just a simple example there. If your gross income before taxes, right, is $36,000, you would divide that by 12 and you'd get a monthly number of $3,000. You multiply that by 38% to determine what your debt maximum should be, and that would be 1,140. Then you would take a peek at your credit report and you go, hey, you know what? I have $200 as a minimal payment debt every month on my credit report of $200, and then you end up with $940 as being your maximum mortgage payment. All right. Steps to choosing your home. Gotta love the keys going into your hand, right? So before you shop for your home, here are some tips to get you started. Know what your budget is. So I get a lot of phone calls. I work with many of our members, and one of the first things I ask them is, "Hey, what are you comfortable with?" A lot of times, I'll have members reach out to me and say, "Hey, Walter, just qualify me for the max." So I'm like, "Okay, if you can qualify for $1 million mortgage, is that something you're going to be comfortable with?" Oftentimes, the answer is no. So that's what we mean by know your budget. You need to know what you're comfortable with paying for on a monthly basis. Don't get emotionally attached. So this is a business transaction. So there are sellers, there are buyers, there's negotiations going on, there's attorneys, realtors. It's business. So as much as you're going to fall in love with the house, you want to make sure that you don't get emotionally attached. Treat it as a business transaction. Do your research. Make sure you want to live where you're looking at homes. Is it close enough to where you work? Is it close enough to the schools you want your kids to go to? In my case, is it close to the bars and restaurants in town? Things like that. Well, whatever's important for you, do that research. Think ahead. Thinking ahead is the first three things. Know your budget. Don't get emotionally attached. Do your research. And definitely look at more than one house. Get a feel for what you're comfortable with or what you desire in a home. And look, once you've determined how much home you can afford, the next step is to find the home that's right for you. Choosing an agent. So we spoke about realtors before. So with the world of information that is now available at our fingertips, do you really need an agent? Is it still necessary in the home buying process? It's simple. This is going to be, or probably going to be, the largest financial decision of your life. You need a buyer's agent. That's a person who represents you in the buying process. Here are some tips to help you find the agent that's right for you. Experience. Um, you know, are you more comfortable with someone who's been doing it for 20 years, or are you okay with someone who's been doing it for 5 to 10 years? You're the only person that's going to know the answer to that. What area do they cover? I live out here on Long Island. I certainly would not use an upstate realtor. It wouldn't make any sense. You're going to want somebody who covers the area that you're looking to purchase in. Credentials. It doesn't hurt to ask for people that they've worked with. Can I speak to people that you've worked with in the past? um, how many houses do they have listed for sale right now? Are they very busy? That goes into our next part there. Current listings, right? So let's say you have somebody who has 100 listings. Are you comfortable with that, or would you prefer to work with someone who has 10 listings? Both has its advantages. Someone who, say, has 100 listings probably has a team working for them, whereas someone who has, say, 10 listings, they're probably working on each of those 10 listings. It really depends on what you're comfortable with. And interview prospective agents. Just like anything else, think about this, right? You're going to be with that person for the next 3 to 6 months. You're going to want to be comfortable with that person. If you're not getting along when you meet that person, they're probably not the best fit for you. Same thing would go for a mortgage person. If you're comfortable working with that person, this is someone who's going to be with you for the next 60 plus days during a purchase. So definitely interview prospective agents and make sure that you're comfortable working with them. Home Advantage. So speaking of realtors, right? So Home Advantage is something that we have here at MCU. What Home Advantage does is it can help you search, buy, sell, as well as save on your next real estate transaction. Use it to find a home of your dreams, sell your existing home, as well as do any research on the market. They'll connect you with a top local agent, save you money at closing. This is available to you as an MCU member at no additional cost, and it's on our website. So we do have programs for first-time home buyers, from down payment assistance to homeowner counseling. There are a wide range of programs that could help you get into your first home. Here are just some of the first-time home buyer. Here are some that MCU participates in. First-time home buyer rate discount. We'll get to that. That's definitely one of our more popular ones. As little as 3% down or 97% financing, as well as a $900 fee waiver. First-time home buyer rate discount. It's so important, and it sells so well that it has a page of its own, right? So must be a first-time home buyer. What that means is you cannot have owned a home in the past 3 years. You must not have owned a home or had a mortgage in the past 3 years. This discount is 0.25% off any of the fixed rate mortgages that MCU offers. And just keep in mind that this rate discount cannot be combined with any of our other offers. Here are some of our grants that we do currently have to offer for 2025. The first one is very near and dear to my heart, right? So this is the MCU Foundation grant. This is for first-time home buyers. It's included in the states of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, which coincidentally are the 4 states that we are licensed in. Grant approvals can be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on your liquid reserves and down payment. And what you're going to want to do is, if you have any questions about this, you can go to our website. Also, you can email us at grants@nymcu.org. And I'm sure one of the guys are going to throw that in the chat for everyone just to see. Another one that we offer is the Home Buyer Dream Program, or HDP. And the one also after that is the Home Buyer Dream Program, or HDP Plus. Those are just a sample of what we do as far as grants.
Thank you, Walter. Next slide here, we're going to pass over to Michael Gerty. Michael, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just had a little technical issue there a moment ago, but seems to be back all right. Yeah, we're here to help. That's what MCU is all about. Taking care of our heroes, taking care of our very important SEG groups. That's what we're here to do. What I was asked to kind of talk about today, as important it is getting the mortgage, getting your lending needs in order. Remember, MCU as a not-for-profit also offers a host of other very important pieces of your financial picture. Where do you keep your deposits? Where do you put savings? That's become for folks that use MCU a very important part of their overall picture. One of the things they're highlighting right now here at MCU is our high yield savings account. It's a 3.2% annual payer, and it is completely liquid, meaning the availability of cash is daily. No lockups to get that 3.2% on at least $5,000 of new money. So if you bring new money over to MCU and it's at least $5,000, you'll get the 3.2%. Can you open the account with a number less than that? The answer is yes, but you won't get the 3.2% until you reach the $5,000 threshold. The other very popular savings account we have right now is our 9-month CD. It's paying 4% on an annual yield, so that's been extremely attractive. It's, again, not liquid like high yield savings account, but it's certainly something that can get you a little bit better yield. But I got to say, our most popular accounts still remain, for those that are savings, our vacation accounts and our holiday accounts. For whatever reason, they've stood the test of time, and every day when I'm out meeting with folks, they want to open and maintain their holiday account. The vacation account just is about to pay out right now. If any members are on the phone, you realize that if you're saving in your vacation account, you might have gotten the payment for this summer's season of vacation. The vacation accounts continue to be extremely popular, and the holiday accounts in December, just before Christmas and the holidays, you save all year long into your holiday account. We make it hard to get at that money unless there's an emergency. Of course, you can get that money, but if you're able to, follow the rules, it's a place that you can save money all year long. And at the end of the year, we automatically plop it back into your checking account available for your use. And those remain extremely popular. And the last item I just want to bring to everyone's attention, we've made some really dramatic improvements on our mobile app. The mobile app has become, I think, one of the thing that has moved MCU forward in a way and really attracted many of our members to using us in other ways than just getting great rates, right? Typically, everybody knows MCU for having great rates on the mortgages, car loans, whatever it may be. But we're finding that folks now are using our mobile app and taking advantage of a lot of the things you get from other big, well-known commercial banks because our app is such high quality. The number one thing that's starting to be used here is Zelle. You get with the mobile app, you can use Zelle. Transferring money to and from friends, family, or even to yourself has become extremely popular. We also do the electronic funds transfers up to $10,000 at a time at a transfer. Those are being used more and more often by our members. We have the mobile check deposit on any checks up to $10,000, and we continue to see growth in our direct deposit. Direct deposits coming from a paycheck, not necessarily the entire paycheck, portion of their paychecks are certainly now more than ever coming to MCU. You don't be afraid to save a little at MCU, save a little into your holiday account, your checking account, or your vacation account, whatever it may be, and you can use a portion of your direct deposit to do that. And I think the key thing that I'm hearing, and I think with all of Walter's great information, the key thing to really, I think, take away from a meeting like this is ask yourself, what are you doing today that puts you in a better position for tomorrow? At MCU, I think if you really explore what's there for you, it can really enhance your overall financial picture in ways that a lot of the other typical big commercial banks can't. So with a simple question, well, what can I do right now or today that puts me in a better position? Hopefully something you heard today will motivate you to put yourself on that better path. So if you need any help with anything, I think you saw my number. I'll be glad to take any questions or comments. After this call, texting me on that number is certainly recommended. I'm very good about getting back to text. Calling me and waiting for me to pick up. I can't say I'm the best, but certainly do through text, set a time to speak if that's what's warranted. So thanks.
Thank you, Michael. So like Mikey just said, we have his listed numbers up here, mobile, office number, email, as well as Walter Skowronski. We have contact information up here. Feel free to contact us or make an appointment at nymcu.org. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time this evening. We have a few minutes here, so I'd like to open it up to the chat. I think we have some questions here. We have Omar manning the chat this evening. Omar, what do we have in there?
Currently, we have no questions.
Nothing, okay.
That's a compliment right there. Compliment to how great of a job we all did
Walter,
there. Mike, that was some great information too, man. Whew.
I actually have a question. Someone who's looking to purchase their first home. Does age have
it was
anything?
great information, or we put everyone to sleep?
No, you guys did a wonderful job. We thank you. And I actually, again, is someone who's looking to purchase her first home in New York, hopefully. Does age have anything to do with it? I mean, do they look at someone who is younger, let's say in her 20s, which I'm not, versus someone who's in her 40s, who is, let's say, more established and more stable? Would that have any impact in any way, shape, or form?
Great
No, not at all.
question. And I could
No,
have
Walt, go ahead.
I have a perfect example. When I first got into this business 1.5 years ago, one of my first questions to one of the I used to be a processor was, hey, like a person was applying, and I looked at their age, and I said, well, they're going for a 30-year mortgage. Are they going to live that long? Like that was the question. It was an honest question. But I got my first lesson in age discrimination rather quickly in my career at wherever it was that I was working. And so, no, you cannot discriminate with someone's age. That would be number one. But I think to your point, is someone in their 40s more seasoned or more experienced in their job compared to someone in their 20s? That's not really something that we would necessarily look at. The 2-year history is really what we're looking for. If a person's 22 years old and they've been in a certain line of business for the 2 years, they're pretty much the same as someone who's 40 to 42 years old being in that same type of situation. So we wouldn't, it really wouldn't hold any advantage or disadvantage. Omar, how'd I do?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. That's the perfect answer to that question. All right, so a couple of questions did
And if
populate.
if I could jump in on that one, Omar, is that all right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, if I could, I want to just pose it as a question to Walter. I get a lot of this out in the field. Folks are asking me, well, I'm gonna wait till I retire and then I'm gonna buy a house. Is that always the best of ideas? If you're approaching that retirement age and you're thinking about maybe making a purchase, to do it before or after retirement, what would be, I've always, kind of emphasized to where I think they should. What would your opinion be in that situation, Walter?
Yeah.
In terms
That's
of
a great
age, you
question.
maybe get to a certain
It
age.
really, yeah. Yep. It still wouldn't, right, because you could retire at 30 years old. Wouldn't that be nice? But you could also retire at 65. The question or the answer is how much money you're going to need to qualify for where you want to live. So let's say you retire at any given age, whatever your retirement income is, following that 38% rule that we were talking about earlier would still apply. So if you were still if you were still employed, working, not retired, is your income that much more than what your retirement income is going to be? And then the next question is, do you need 38% of your current salary where you're working to afford that house that you want, or will a retirement income satisfy that need? So it's a great question, and I've definitely had that experience where members were going to be retiring in a couple of years, and without knowing that they're going to retire, since we can't say, hey, you're going to be 65 in 2 years, right? Because that would be age discrimination. We would qualify them based on what their salary is today. I have had this has definitely happened where a member was working with me. They were employed. They didn't tell me that they were going to retire. And lo and behold, right, a month or two down the road, while we're still doing the transaction, they end up getting retired. And, it changes things, obviously, because now you're going to be using different income. But it certainly wouldn't change any of our qualifying, the way we look at someone to qualify them. Great question.
Wonderful, wonderful, guys. All right, so I have a question here. Are there any fees associated with paying bi-weekly mortgage payments?
Walt,
And
you
then
want
there's
it,
a
or
Well, I mean,
there's also
yeah,
a part
Omar,
two.
you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll take it. There's also
Yeah,
a
go
part
for
two
it.
if there's any fees if you try to pay a 13th payment. So to make a mortgage payment, if you decide to do bi-weekly or pay a little bit more than the minimum, it's allowed, and there is no prepayment penalties or any fees associated with paying a little bit more than the required monthly payment.
Great answer.
There's also another question. How does borrowing against your 401k affect DIR?
Okay, so I can step in and answer, any type of questions regarding your 401k. And you are allowed to borrow money against your 401k for a purchase on a home. It doesn't really affect the mortgage application because those are assets that you have saved up, and we will not consider that monthly payment on the 401k loan, and it will not affect your mortgage application. So if you do need a little bit of extra funds, you are definitely, you can definitely tap into your 401k. One thing I would advise is to speak to a tax advisor in regards to borrowing against a 401k as opposed to withdrawing towards your 401k, just to see if there's any tax benefits on a withdrawal for a first-time homebuyer.
Great stuff.
Okay, I have another question here. When will we be emailed this seminar, and what is the email address to be aware for the seminar? So pretty much when we'll be emailing the webinar, the slides, and from what email address will it come from?
We'll be emailing within the next few, day or two, and then it'll be coming from a Schnepp's Media account. So please take a look out for that. Gentlemen, I cannot tell you how grateful I am for this information personally in my hopeful road to home ownership.
We'll
Yeah,
definitely
you
be
found yourself in the right spot tonight.
Absolutely.
Give us a call. We're ready.
Absolutely.
We're
It is
here
the
for it,
American
like
If
you
you need to
dream.
said,
become
right?
a member, and look, if you need to become a member, Mike gave all his contact. Send him a text.
Mhm.
Send him a text. He'll help you become a member.
Perfect. And the contact information is also in the chat. So we do look
Nice.
forward to, furthering this relationship, furthering any kind of pathways to home ownership and securing the American dream, because at the end of the day, we all want a place to call home.
Okay, wonderful. I
That's
have
right.
one more question that slipped through, and what do we need to qualify for the grant program?
So
Nice.
I'll take.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam, please.
I could take this one. So we have the different grants that we're partnered with. So for the MCU Foundation grant, the application can be found on our website. You have to submit the application. We will get back to you to let you know what the next steps would be if you qualify for the grant. For the Homebuyers Dream programs, the HDP and the HDP Plus, those grants require an application that goes along with it. So you'd have to essentially be under contract, ready to be purchasing the home. Part of the submission that's required is the actual contract to the agency for the request. So that's how you'd get accepted for the grants, right? You essentially have to start your application and then being under contract in order to make the submission.
Awesome. Great answer.
All right, so something else just to share, right? I know this is a collaboration here, right, with our business development. We're here talking about first-time home buyers. Something that Mike highlighted was the high yield savings. So people that are looking for a home, right? What is your money doing for you? You could bring it all over to MCO at once, make it do a little bit more for you while you're preparing or taking that time to purchase your home. Makes it much more accessible, liquidable, right? And it's here right for your transaction too. So to have everything all under one roof, especially for your transaction, makes for a much smoother process as well. All right, Omar, is anything else coming through, or is that it for the evening here?
Seems like that's it. I'll take another quick look. Nope, no other questions came up.
All right.
And of course, I'm so
Go
sorry.
ahead, Tony.
Of course,
Go ahead,
everyone
Tony.
is available at any point to answer any questions going forward, correct?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So as we said,
Absolutely.
we did share the information, the contact information. We do thank everyone for joining us here this evening. We do wish you the best, and you have great partners in helping you to get your home. And we thank Michael, Omar, Walter, and Adam for being gracious hosts, wonderful, wonderful panelists, and giving us really valuable information. So thank you again, gentlemen. I give you a round of applause. Thank you everyone for joining. And please reach out so that you can get the keys in your hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Have a nice night, everyone.
Bye.